All righty, away we go, everybody. Welcome. It is Wednesday, December 18th of 2024. We are nearing the end of another year, which is stunning to me that the time just goes by this quickly. And this is another version, another class in let's think about the name. Grant, I'll get this right. The Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. Sorry, I got a little mushroom coffee here. You can see I need it tonight. But listen, really exciting topic tonight, but I do want to help you all understand where you can go back and get caught up here, because we are going to, the way that the timing is working, we're going to have a couple of weeks off here because of the holidays. So this will be the last one, and then a couple of weeks for, we won't do one next week during Christmas, and we won't do one the following week during New Year. So we'll skip a couple of weeks here, and then we'll pick up. And so in the meantime, if you want to stay working on this, let me just show you here something. Let me show it on both YouTube. It's a little tricky here doing this thing. Bear with me. I want to show you my screen. I think I'm just showing it on YouTube though. Hang on. Yeah, bear with. Here we are. Okay. So sorry, I set this up wrong tonight. So I just want to let you know that I was just in my YouTube channel and I was working this a little bit. So you can see it's a named channel, so it's easy to find. I'll put this in the chat so that you have access to it and you can find the recordings. I also asked Lauren to give me the link to a document. So all of you that are on this call, or Griffins or TRCers, I have been putting the links to these as well in a document. So either way, I want this to be easy to find, but most importantly, I'm making a playlist here because it is a free, open to the public class. I kind of fell forward and just slapped up the three that are there. They're not necessarily in the right order, but I will go back and fix them later. But for now, just so you had access to them, because I know I get a lot of requests, especially from all you folks out in Seattle that can't necessarily be here live and you want to see these recordings. So they are, they're there for you. Okay. Amongst other things that I used to do. I did a lot of little tips on a Realty Classroom podcast for years. So there's a playlist there. And so, little shorts that were snippets out of there too. But again, going forward, I think the most important thing that I can give away to all of you, whether you're inside on the inside with me at Griffin or TRC, or on the outside and you're just a visitor to these calls, is really the plan. Because that's what I preach the most. I preach that you have to lead with strategy. And going into 2025, I've never been more certain about how to be successful in this business. You have to have a strategy first. And in this 12-week course, I go over it and over it and over it. And we are just in mode to just stay strategic and then let the tactics follow. And what that means is most people, they come at this business tactically first, which means they just want to get leads. They just want to sell something. And that's a tactical approach. Strategic says, hey, listen, I'd like to gross for my business a certain number, and I can see myself being a profitable agent. Those are the first 2 weeks of this whole program, to just say, don't do what everybody else is doing and rush to the tactics. I know I did that before, and I wish somebody said, whoa, why don't you see yourself as a profitable real estate agent running a profitable business first as a self-image, then understand that that person would set themselves a goal for their top line, not just the number of millions they've sold, but really the gross commission income before splits, so that you have a target for what you're trying to sell. Sales, revenue / each one of those things, same thing really, that drives the entire business. You cannot be profitable without understanding that. And then really digging down into how do you set those goals based on a median and a mean price. All of that really, really matters. It has absolutely changed my life. Laura's very excited. My client care manager, been with me 18, 19 years now, because we set a record revenue year for my book of business, because we have agents at the company as well. For me, I'll celebrate it briefly, but it's never good enough for me. For me, there's always another level. So I'm always looking at that. But I'm excited to start 2025 off understanding, wow, the strategy approach first led to tactics that I teach you here. I tell you exactly how I do what I do. And I teach it to you, including last week where we went over the unique selling selling proposition sitting behind me, the seller and the buyer package. Mind blown that it was that simple to change the trajectory of my business and end up in these really incredibly more profitable situations. I mean, I'm not just giving this lip service here each week that I share this with you by saying, oh, you can be a more profitable real estate agent. I'm living it. I'm it. And yes, I've been profitable per se to a certain extent for years, but I was very transactionally oriented for too many of those years. I was doing definitely mostly below median price business. So I was having to do more transactions because, again, I was thinking tactically. So all of those things can really hurt you. So whether you're new to the business or you're trying to reorient yourself in the business, it's important to understand that this course, the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan, is exactly what I do, to the extent that it's my strategy, right? Of course, there are a lot of little micro tactics. All the people that are in the one-on-one coaching program with me, which is probably the most intense, I call it highest level, but it's the most intense one-on-one digging into details. Then there are all the agents that are part of that and part of the Griffin. So I would just implore you that when you are trying to figure out how to do this, copy me, copy my strategy. And be patient with yourself, because over time you're going to learn that it should be a fun endeavor to just get better and better and better. And it is a difficult business. So you need to pay attention to a strategy or it will chew you up and spit you out. So again, the recordings are for you, waiting for you over there on my YouTube channel. Let me also, for 1 second, go in and dig in, because I do have, for all of you that attend live, I asked Lauren to just send me something here with all the recordings. Let me see if I can find what she sent me. Bear with me. Sorry, I'm doing this live because I care. I want you to get this. I know a lot of you are asking me for this, and it hasn't really been readily organized and available, but I promised you going into 2025 it would be. So here we go, the Profitable Agent Plan. I'm going to share you a link to this. And so there will be a document in there. Let me just double check on this document. I'm not showing my screen at the moment, but yeah, these are all going, pretty far back too. She did a really awesome job. She went all the way back to January 24. So you'll see, I mean, it runs in series of 12, but they're all nicely done here. And so, you should be able to, I'm just going to take a quick peek that the videos, yeah. So they're working. Okay. So good. I'm going to share this link with you in the chat now, in the Zoom chat, that is. So there we go there. Okay. I don't know if I can share this on the other link too, for all of you that will watch this on YouTube. Let me see if I can. Link to past recorded calls. Okay. Bear with me. I'm just going to give them the YouTube playlist as well. Okay. And I'll give that to you as well too. So what I just gave you in the Zoom chat is a document, but I'm also going to give you the YouTube playlist link. So there are your two links. You can't get lost now. There are all the recordings so that you can go back and look at this. And like I said, over time, what will happen is I'll just continue to make it organized. I'm working with when I moved from my old studio into this office over here. So I had everything conveniently here. You can't really see it behind the scenes here, but microphones, switchers, recorders. I'll also try to make and edit out the video so they're much better and they're easy to consume. And whatever else I can do to make this better, maybe even some fill in the blank attachments, which I have, they're already made so that you have them, the keywords and everything that we talk about here. Okay. All right. Voila. Let's get back to talking about what we have to tonight. Let me see if I can find me a screen to share. Tell me if you can see who's your avatar. Can you see that from the folks in Zoom? Anybody want to give me yes?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, good. Let me just go back to this. I just set this up a little bit differently tonight, so I have to just make sure. Okay, let's start this slideshow. And we'll get rocking and rolling here. And as you know, if you've been here before, this is a little bit of a walkthrough of a fill in the blank. Yes, it is a lecture each week on what to do. That's the most important thing to remember. This is just what to do from a strategic viewpoint. And again, we are in the 4th week here where we are going to talk about who's your avatar. Last week, we talked about the unique selling proposition. So just as a quick iteration of what's happened, we've gone through and we have talked about, one, who do you have to believe you are from a self-image standpoint to become this profitable real estate agent plan? That's week 1. Some of the best techniques I've ever learned in my entire life studying this stuff and being sort of a nerded out person about all things, the head stuff. It has completely worked for me over the years. It's how I've built a business from literally 200 business cards and a lamp over all these years. It's how I've gone and decided to buy a building and put together the financing, even though I didn't know how I was going to do those things. I have used mindset techniques for a very long time, and they work. You should listen to week 1. Very powerful information there. Week 2 is applying that mindset stuff to really seeing, how. Like what's the top line? It's the very first step in starting a business to have this, imagination for a very specific number that your business would gross, not be, after splits, but before splits and all that. Not getting into the nitty gritty things that you really don't have any idea about how you're going to manage yet, but really just saying, hey, I would like to perform at a median level. Right. And that's really how the profitable agency begins. So that was week 2. Week 3 is, well, how are you going to do it? How's anybody going to believe that it should be you versus all other options? So we talk a lot about what a unique selling proposition is and how we begin to teach you how to be unique in a business that is very commoditized, meaning everybody sounds the same. We all sound like sheeple. We're all repeating the same stuff. But I pick you up in week 3 and I put you in your own category. Really changed my life over the last 3 years to 6 years maximum. I really made those decisions. So in a 25-year career, 25 years as of September, I can't believe I'm stunned in the last 3 years how this strategy has really come to life and exploded. And that really was because we really just sat still and thought about what it was like to market ourselves in a unique way. And we came up with these simple to put together packages for sellers and buyers. And it just really made us confident that we could go into any house, anytime, anywhere, or meet any buyer and present ourselves in a professional, unique way. Changed my life. I can't say it enough. In the context of business, it changed my life. I will not go into any presentation without it. And so that leads to who's the avatar, because you can have all of that in place. And then from a marketing standpoint, you have to understand avatar. So developing an answer to that question, who's your avatar, is essential. So we're going to use this worksheet tonight to work through this a little bit. So a marketing avatar is what? It's a fictional representation of your ideal customer. And when we get into language, I think it's always important for me to slow this down and try to educate you about the language and what these words use. I remember feeling so lost that, when you come into business, what is there supposed to be a presumption that even though we're a bunch of smart people, we're supposed to know the lingo and we're supposed to know what these labels mean? In fact, one of my pet peeves is how much lingo we use when we're talking to a seller or a buyer. Oh, the comps. What does that even mean? It's short for the word comparable, and most of us have never really discussed or been educated on what it really is a comparable. How do you really compare two houses? Can you even do that, right? And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is no. So we have to be careful of language. So in this case, customer is tricky language, right? So what I'd rather really have you say is it's really, and I might change this in the next round, come to think of it. I want you to think of it as a contact, okay? A marketing avatar is a fictional representation of your ideal contact. Why? Why a contact? Because a customer really is something that I think, for me, is something that's more already engaged in doing business with you, whereas contact is raw material. And I had this conversation earlier today. A contact is the raw material that we go out to try to manufacture a happy past client. right? A happy past client is the end result that we're after. It's not money. Money is an inflow and an outflow. It's a byproduct. And of course, it's the most important thing, or you're not going to be in the business long. I understand that. But strategically and operationally, you have to see this contact moving along this assembly line where you are trying to assemble it from its rawest form, which is a lead, to its completed form, which is a past client. Okay. So those are the two ends of this business as you move this along. So as you're moving it along, it never stops being a contact. So that raw material of a contact in a service business is what? Well, if it's fully formed, meaning that contact has everything we would love to have, we have a full name, we have an email address, we have a telephone number, and we have a mailing address. See, if you have a telephone number, an email address, and a mailing address, it will give you all of the opportunities through different mediums, right? To communicate, to market, to convert. All of the things you're going to need to do to bring the contact from a disposition of a lead to a past client. A fully formed contact would allow you, if you're really doing multiple media presentation, and you should be, you need the full contact information. So the best raw material, sort of like saying the best food is organically grown and it's really healthy for us. Well, same thing with contact. There's an ideal contact information. So that really gets into this because you have to market to them. And marketing is just a really tricky term. It's a global term. Advertising, like running an ad on Google, is a piece of marketing. Whereas I said last week, and I'll reiterate, marketing can be everything. It can be the way you're dressed. It can be the car you pull up in. It can be your business cards. It can be the folders that you bring things in. It can be your website. It can be the business presentation in totality, right? But we do have to present eventually to somebody. So we're marketing. The minute we present ourselves as a viable option to help somebody sell or buy a house, there's a definition to them. And we can create an ideal in I would say theoretical, but really rooted more so in the pragmatic or practical way I taught you last week, to be money focused on the avatar first, right? And we'll get into that. But again, when you're doing an ideal, it is a little bit fictional because you don't have it yet. It doesn't mean it's fictional to the extent that this person does not exist, because to a large extent they do. But when you're making an ideal, it becomes fictionalized because everybody is not going to be perfect avatar. Of course, they're human. But this is really what it is. We're starting off with a concept of the human target that you're trying to market to, okay? So it is a detailed description of that hypothetical that represents your target. This is your target. So let's go back to last week, okay? And I want to talk about last week's financial process that we go through. And it's something that has really, really changed the way that I teach and the way that I live this business. And I'll tell you how it keeps getting better financially, profitably. That's what this course is about, right? So that hypothetical person, we're going to get into some of the personality and all of that. But the most important thing that we're going to pay attention to in the beginning is money. So the money says, if I were to go in and create that targeted plan, and let's say for the sake of argument, last week, I think I probably used an example of one. You want to do a target for your business of 101,235 or whatever the crooked number is. Don't ever say 100,000, 50,000, 500,000. Your brain knows it's patronizing. It wants meaningful specifics. So now I've got this meaningful specific. Now, to help me create ideal avatar, I simply go into the multiple listing service. You don't even have to go there. I mean, if you weren't licensed, but it's best to go there if you're licensed because you have the best data, best access, most accurate. It's real stuff that closes. So the first thing you say is, well, I wanted to do business in this geography. For me, let's take downtown Boston or Boston proper. That means really most of the downtown stuff, the old school stuff, Beacon Hill, Back Bay, South End, that would really be some of the best product we could have, right? I could simply go in and say, well, who owns that? Because that's my avatar. The owner of a listing in those three areas, who is that person, right? But before I even go there, to see who will match up with my unique selling proposition, let me just say profitably, I'd like to at least list and sell a property in those areas in downtown Boston that is median priced or above. And it's a logical place for any of us to start, not just me with experience, because again, if I were brand new, I wish somebody slapped me upside the head and taught me all of this then and said, listen, stay focused on the median, not just the anything, because that ends up being really tactical. And I'll tell you, you start chasing transactions, you start chasing less than median and probably more buyers, and you never become a good listing agent. That's the hazard of this business. So I start looking in Back Bay and I know, okay, fluctuating. And I told Laura, let's wait till the end of the year to get the real full year median and average. I'll get into average in a second. But the avatar, this target audience, is going to be financially easy to define geographically in the areas I want and price-wise at that number of a median and above. So it's hypothetical to me at the moment, but it's pretty targeted financially. So I can be very specific, right? But as we get into this a little bit more, now I have to think about the person that's going to line up well with what it is that is my avatar. And I'm going to get into a lot of the details that I've learned over time. But one of the most important things is that they need to be somebody who wants education about how to list and sell their house, about how to properly buy the house. They need to be part of that. I think that's the most important thing here, is that I can't have all of this great information. I keep pointing to it. I'll hold it up in front of you if you can see this in the little corner. These are my 2 unique selling proposition packages. So when I go into a property and I present, I need somebody that's going to listen to all of this, these 7 steps and how it works and what the analysis of the stuff around them is and what the net sheet is going to be, right? I need that person who's intellectually smart enough. Now, the good news is the law of averages helps me out, especially downtown Boston. I can attest to this specifically. I know that most people that are in downtown Boston that own a median above property, most of those people are fairly well educated, if not extremely well educated. There are more PhDs and MBAs and, all sorts of things after their names, and just successful people who are into education. They're into reading, they're into learning. So that's a great avatar for me. So geographically, I'm blessed because we have some of the best schools in the world right within that area, and they birth their graduates into the workforce right there. So all of those people need to be educated. They want to be educated, and their desire is to live in this place and not have to spend a lot of time thinking about this, right? Now, again, I'm being specific because over time, I know those are things that matter to my avatar, okay? So by knowing that avatar, you can create more targeted, effective marketing strategies, okay? So I don't know what's first here, the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart, because I could have easily defined this person and then told you about the unique selling propositions. But I'm telling you, I know that this is even more important, right? This is the most important piece of this. If I could identify my avatar, but if I didn't know how to present to them uniquely, this is a super effective marketing approach. I'm telling you that from experience and profitable result. I'll get into the result in a second. But this, to me, I needed to have ready, and then I could easily back into who this avatar was. So I know this is effective. Now, I have to say this. It is not effective for anything, listen closely. It's not effective for anything other than a microcosm of the marketplace. A very small percentage of people are going to end up being my avatar who goes from a lead. I don't know why they want to do, business with anybody. I don't know how motivated they are to explaining why they are that person, right? And then eventually becoming my client, and then hopefully a closing and a past client. So they're going to be going along that ideal contact is going to go all the way along that, but there's just a few of them. And I think that's the thing that's most surprising to me as a doer of this thing and then as a coach of this thing, is that it's stunning how few people you need to be successful financially. especially if this avatar is at or above the median where you are, and especially if you follow the effective marketing strategy of presenting simple information in an organized way to that person. It's stunning. We sold far less transactions than I have at my peak and made a record year of money on my book of business. Record, right? Stunning that I can say that. And again, I can only see even bigger things. Why? Because I'm seeing us getting prospects to be built out. We're seeing more prospects at a higher level, even than the median, quite a bit higher, by the way. We can even see them beginning to pile up. So these effective marketing strategies, from the telemarketing, which is targeted to call people that own not only median, but sometimes multiples of that median. So for example, downtown Boston fluctuates probably 1.215 as a median price. We have several people we're talking to. One person owns a 3.5 and a $3 million property, right? Another one, current client, owns a 2 million, just sold a 3.4. So sometimes as you're defining this person, you'd be shocked at how it's not really that different of a conversation at all, if at all, with somebody who could be 3 times the median. Mind blown, right? Because the more you start to, lurch towards the mean, that mean can stretch way out further. Like on Cape Cod right now, the average is running 1 million to 1.1 million, sometimes down to 9. And the median is 775. So even just stretching towards focusing on the mean and above, which is my second strategy, which is in full force and effect last year, actually the last 3 years, it's just stunning how effective this has really become, right? Again, I'll talk about managing it. Like you can have a lot of these people that actually are interested, and you can just start losing them because you don't have a good follow-up system. We get into that later in this course, but it's important to mention, I'm going to teach you that there is no problem finding avatar. None. And they're in front of your face every single week. But if you start going, where are the leads? They're hiding in plain sight, right? You have to find them, and you have to come up with campaigns to do it. And that's what these effective marketing strategies are. That's why having a unique selling proposition, no matter what the context is, expired, FSBOs, probates, and divorces, on and on, friends, right? Who cares? You better be ready to talk to them all about the universality of selling and buying a house. But then you can implement things like door knocking marketing, telemarketing on the phone, right? Direct mail marketing is good, but I'm very cautious to bring it up. It's really not as effective as it once was if you're just randomly sending and hoping somebody reacts. But man, is it ever. Once you've made a telemarketing call or a door knock or an open house and you have handed this to them or mailed this to them, then it's really effective, right? All right. So to create an effective avatar, you need to know your audience's demographics and psychographics. Okay. So we talked about this. The demographics are the easy part. Go into MLS, look at the area within which you really want to do business, and be greedy. Do the best stuff. Go to the best areas, not like way away from your house or, a very far drive, or, you don't want to be ridiculous about this. You want to stay as hyper local as you can, but not go into a very difficult, distress sale area just because maybe you live closer to that because that's what you can afford at the moment because you're young or whatever the case is. Demographics cheat towards the better part of your town, your city, a couple zip codes that are nearby. Psychographics and behaviors are pretty easy too, because the psychographic is, if somebody's expired, their psychology to sell has already been like obvious. They tried to sell, right? And so their psychology was, yeah, I had a real reason why to try with somebody else, and now I'm expired to cancel. The other thing is the psychographic to sell in the category of probates where somebody's passed away. 99% of the time when there is real estate, shouldn't say that. Let's say 90%, 9 out of 10, there's a very strong desire to liquidate that property. And oftentimes, in my experience, when somebody has passed and they end up in a probate situation, is because they're unorganized. They don't really have a clear will that disposes of the property a particular way. So it has to go through this process. So there's a lot of confusion when you go through all of this process. But that psychographic of that person is usually so high, It's actually tough to compete in that lane because you're up against a lot of investors who are just offering cash as is, where is. And most of these people that are unorganized, you can imagine how they leave their properties, including one of my clients' brothers died in the house. Another one left. Like, I have seen 3 or 4 hoarding situations in this category, right? So you have to understand that the demographics are easy because you're going to identify it first through, basically just a generalization based on median and above. And then the demographics are similar. They're usually professional in that category. They're usually educated. You're not going to be specific, but again, we're creating a hypothetical, ideal, right? And the psychographics have more to do with the reason why they're doing something and the motivation to do so. Very simple, right? Very simple. Behaviors are, they're going to end up engaging your offer. And that's what we want. We want somebody that when we call them up, they're nice to us. They're like, yeah, that sounds like great information. I'd love to have it. Sure, send it over, right? Not that they're guaranteeing us a seat at the table, but they're engaging us. And those are all the things we've learned are important, right? So you can gather information about your audience through surveys, social media, and market. In our business, we don't have to go esoterically out there trying to do all these surveys because most of the time our business gives us these clues, right? And I talk about this in this course. Again, expireds don't necessarily tell us why they were doing it to begin with. We don't know that it was a divorce, a downsize, an upsize. We don't know any of that, but we do know that they had the psychology where they made the decision to at least sell. We can sift and sort that out later. So the survey oftentimes is through telemarketing. When you're calling them, making an offer, and then you're surveying them, asking, looks like a beautiful house. Why are you trying to sell it? Right? I know they passed, but why not keep it? That's a survey on an individual basis where you're actually talking to the avatar to ensure, you have this ideal that they'll tell you these answers. And then you ask the questions and they answer or they don't. That's going to tell you, is this my avatar? Are they engaging me? I'm doing this survey right there, right? So I think our business gives us some unique ways in which we can do this, right? So like I said, the pro tips here tonight, because it's a pretty easy subject about this, but I'll get into it. And I'll get into tonight. I always have an anecdote for you. I got kicked in the teeth today with a call that was shocking to me from a past client that they weren't going to go with me. And I fought my way back into the meeting. And I'll tell you about that because sometimes you have this ideal person that you love and they just drift off. If something else happens, they make these impetuous, crazy decisions, right? So I'll talk about that in a second here. But the pro tip, like I said, is it relates to us talking about the median price. You got to look at the median price and above for your target. I don't care how lowly you think of yourself. I'm trying to teach you to have a self-image as a profitable agent. And I'm telling you, it is far easier with this systematic approach of offering an intellectual empowerment through information. It lands better with people at the median and above. Not that it doesn't land with everybody, not that I don't want you to serve anybody, but you're here to try to learn how to be profitable. That starts with a per deal basis, and you need to be median and above because there's a lot of pressure all the time on commissions and competing and all that stuff, okay? For the psychographics, your avatar definition must include a real why. So when you're talking about your ideal client, so many agents just kind of plow through, not listening to somebody that says, I'm not really ready right now. I don't really have a why right now. And I don't really have a real why in the next 12 months. Oh, great. Would it be okay if I call you back in 6 months? To do what? To say what? Are you going to be able to change that person? Oop, did my camera just 86? Okay, that's interesting. Hang on, gang. My camera just might have 86 right there. Let's just see what happened there. Can you guys still see me talking here? That was a really weird thing.
Yep.
Can you see through my camera? Can you see this here?
It says change the battery pack.
Yeah, that's really weird. That shouldn't happen. Okay, we won't worry about it. We'll keep going. So anyway, the most important thing there, like I said, is for the psychographics, right? Your avatar definition really must include a why, right? They want to move and they have this high motivation. That's your psychographics. That's where they are when you meet them. Now, of course, this sets you up for follow-up most of the time. You're not going to pick up the phone or go to an open house all the time when everybody's got a real why and a motivation and they're willing to talk to you. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That is the ideal avatar, but that just doesn't happen regularly. So you're trying to determine that in the next 6 months, preferably, if not the next 12 months, are you going to really be in a position where, you have this opportunity to follow up with somebody, right? So that's the most important thing. All righty there. Got thrown off a little bit by what happened to my camera here. Don't know. Yeah, shouldn't have a battery because it's a continuous battery, but let me switch the camera. Yeah, change the battery pack. That's very interesting. Okay, there he is in another camera. And then let me go to the zoom. Okay, there we go. So lastly, they really need to be interested in your unique selling proposition. And I would say that, okay? That's the thing that's a little bit more subtle because we're outward looking at median price to find out demographically and psychographically gives us, a little bit of an idea of motivation and timing. But the other thing is once you make an offer to somebody, that's actually the precursor for deleting people and not moving them along your assembly line. Because like I said, you're going to have far plenty leads once you understand the campaigns you should be pursuing over 52 weeks, right? But the most important thing is once you make an offer of information that is free, that'll clearly empower them, if they reject you or if they have an agent or whatever it is, that's a no, right? It's a no. So much time is spent, trying to teach people, you got to overcome the objections. Why? Why do you have to overcome objections when there are plenty of people out there that if you just kept going, you would find they engage you, they appreciate you, they welcome you to come visit their house, they welcome you to show them properties, right? I think that's what's important to understand about this is that they have to engage your unique selling proposition. Okay, voila. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to come in here. We don't have a huge crowd tonight. We're getting closer to the holidays, but I did, if you came in late, Paul, especially you, I have up in, and you might've been on time to see this. I don't mean to say it like that, but I put into the
chat. Late. I was dealing
Okay,
with
good. Hang on. In that case, Paul, here are 2 links to where people can find the recordings. Okay. So one is
okay.
One is direct. One is directly on the YouTube channel. I set up a playlist tonight so that they would show there, and the other one is a document that's in the Google Drive. So either one, and the Google Drive one, Paul, they go back to the beginning of the year, January of 24. Okay, so plenty of rotations of the whole course.
Cool. Okay, so check it out. I'll leave those open on my browser.
Yep.
That's great for this class, but also what I'm looking for.
I have the others.
Friday.
Yeah, I have the others. I'm going to forward that email to you. I have those. Yep,
Okay.
have those too. So those are for those are for Griffin.
Yeah, no,
those are
leave it
for
up on the browser.
those are for Griffin.
I'll look at it later today.
Yeah, those are for Griffins and TRCers only. This is for everybody here. So I will forward you the email in that case.
Annie, can I get a copy of that too? It's Alexis.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Paul, I will, when I close this out, let me just see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. Let me get this email from her.
Is that from Lauren?
Yep, it's coming in to you and Alexis.
If she sent me something I have to look at about the onboarding, I might have it in there anyway, but I'm not sure.
Okay, Paul and Alexis, there you go. So that is Campfire, telemarketing, both insider calls, and then the profitable real estate agent. So Paul, the only giveaway to non-Griffins is the profitable real estate agent plan. Just keep that in mind, please.
When you say non-Griffins, do you not mean the people that that are in my classes, that are in my...
Only when they sign the contract. Campfire and telemarketing are only when they sign the contract. They can eavesdrop, but I prefer that they're on the inside.
But they're coming to the classes, right? They're coming, I'm inviting them to the classes, right?
Yeah, but just like let them just eat, from time to time. Again, the preference is they're in an agreement with us. I can talk to you on the side about that. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
because they're
I
not
don't-
gonna get an agreement to like pass their test. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, we actually have them signed before they pass the test too.
Oh,
Yep.
I don't.
Yep. Pending that. So we'll talk about that on the side. Questions? Thoughts?
I got it. So
I'm starting to learn, Danny, on this, like in training our telemarketer, like Avatar. It's like
Yeah.
you could almost talk somebody into getting a package and listening to you, but I don't think you need to. I think if you
No.
just follow the beats
Agreed.
of the script,
100% agreed.
you know,
Grant,
just
as
stay patient.
agreed. Grant, as I start 2025, I'm getting even more judicious about who we do and who we don't, right? For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it really I would tell you that that's probably for you and I especially a very finite distinction. It should be for everybody, but it's hard to teach that kind of patience before people really know what it means to start pursuing the wrong person. You waste a lot of time. And there are a lot of people out there that are desperately, hoping that somebody like us will arrive and offer good help, even though they don't know we exist and they don't know that help exists. When we arrive, you can feel it really land. Some people, I have done business with people that I didn't know at all. They were far easier to do business with than people I did know. Far easier.
Mhm.
Yeah. And because they were
Yeah,
Avatar.
I was listening to a couple of Wendy's calls today, and this is in the vein of what you're teaching here with Avatar.
Yeah.
Is she would just go through, and like finally it's almost like, all right, I'll take the information. And as I listen to these
Yeah.
calls, I'm like, they don't need it. They're not getting it.
Yeah. But what you have to understand when you teach them is they're coming into us having learned that kind of cold calling. That's why I said I cringe when people are like, oh, let's teach objection handling. Why? We have a good quick one. When somebody starts to reject you, oh, did your plans change? Because when they say no to the offer, I don't want the information. Oh, really? Did your plans change? It's a pattern interrupt, right? Because it says,
Mhm.
this information would be important to anybody who's thinking about doing something. Anybody. So why wouldn't you want it? And I think they have to be trained they have to be untrained at this, they're used to this attack mode. Just be untrained. Say, we don't need you to do that. We need you to see, are they engaging? Because the minute they start to push back on you, you can make sure that they're not interested. But ultimately, I wouldn't fight too hard for that at all. Because listen, I don't really want to go into a house that we had to fight to get into. Right. And I was going to tell you about one of my
Mhm.
past clients. I've sold 2 luxury properties for this person. And so he said, yeah, we want to list our house with you. And, but I just got to tell you, there was some convincing I had to do with Peggy, his wife. I'm like, really? Why? Well, we thought we were family with her. And he's like, well, she felt like you pushed us too hard on an offer we got. We ended up doing better, of course, but I'm like, geez, how come we never had this discussion before? So then we had a discussion the other day on the phone. He calls me, they just flew in. He's like, yeah, we're going to cancel the meeting and we're going to go with another company. I'm like, what? I'm like, Butch, I've known you for like 20 years. What are you're not even going to let me come in and compete? So then he finally like, oh yeah, all right. But it's like, so, you can't, Avatar, you can never assume. You have to really make sure like you're doing everything to keep people educated. Right. And they don't really like, he sold 2 houses with me, but he has no idea how evolved I am right now. None.
Yeah.
Zero. He goes, well, we think that, Sotheby's might have a little bit more reach. I'm like, reach? Because he was the buyer agent on their last sale. I said, reach, Butch. He reached into your house and he sold it to the guy that was renting from you for the summer, for a big section of summer. I was in the house with that guy most of the time. So what reach? And that's when I think he pattern interrupt him, right? It was like, yeah, that does.
Yeah.
So now I have to go in and say, Butch, here's how it really works, right? Reach is every week you do blah, blah, blah. So you have to constantly be educating these people, even when they're your existing avatar, right? I had another past client, blow me off like that too. And we started to learn, like when we went in there, started doing some of the math with them, I think she got a little bent out of shape about what the math said. So it's, this is a very weird business. You can assume nothing ever. right? Ever.
So I got a quick
Go ahead.
comment. I just
Fire.
want to say, like, it sounds like your school of thought is being more like incentivizing. Hey, I'm the right person compared to just like somebody just saying I'm the right person because of this and that. You know what I mean? Like you just incentivize instead of like.
Well,
trying to-
let me clarify what incentivize means. Demonstrate, dramatic demonstration of value, right? And what that means is, remember last week when we took, 2 weeks ago now, when I took out the buyer and the seller packages, you're demonstrating professionalism. It's called a dramatic demonstration of your value, right? In other words, you go in and you're educating. You're not asking for anything. You're not telling them me versus this one. Now, tomorrow, I will have to have a little bit more of an edge, right? I will. I'll have to go at this and say, okay, first of all, let's reset our relationship. Let's go back and talk about what went wrong the last time. We got a good number, you said, but something went wrong and it didn't get off everybody's chest. Let's get that on the table first before I educate you about how detailed this process is, right? And how I really go through this, because maybe I took you for granted a little bit and didn't explain everything. So let's get the base done. Now, here are the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I came out here last week and took a tour of the house to give you the tips on what to do and what not to do. I also sent you the math. Let's go over the math and talk about what you walk away with. You wanted 2.5 in your hands. I've got math to do that. Let's look at that, right? And then let's talk about marketing. You're talking about reach. Now, see, that's how I'll start to go at them. I won't give them too much of a platform and I won't attack them directly. But I'll say, you've been told or somebody told you about reach. Let's explain how marketing really works. The first step is when I gave you the tips on what to do and what not to do. I'm going to take this, digital footprint, and that's first step. Then it gets syndicated out to MLS. So every broker everywhere sees it through MLS, no matter where they are. That's the maximum reach you can get. But here's the problem with that kind of reach, okay, is that nobody's coming anymore. People aren't just, the buyer brokers aren't picking up the phone and saying, I'd like to show it. So what do we have to do? We have to be in here and push. So we have to call everybody around you and say, hey, we just listed this. Could we send you a listing sheet? We have to send postcards, drive them to the property page. Then we have to go out and we have to do open house after open house, because reach means every time we put an open house in MLS, it reaches the phone. So somebody sees this and somebody can come by and they can see the property. Either they come themselves, which they do most of the time, or they send their agent, right? That's how this really works. Now, let me go and show you with the multimedia, upgrade, since you've done 2 deals with me. Here's, and like I would get into this, right? So you can just see this. Hang on 1 second. I'll show you how detailed this really gets. But I'm showing you a dramatic demonstration of everything. I'm going to shock and awe you and overwhelm you with my understanding how the business works, right? So the property, when I originally did their property, which I'll show you, one of their last properties, it's actually one of our featured, it was this. And we couldn't get the best media package because they had renters in there. Okay. So we got some nice, we got a video tour, which was just kind of this like pictures put together. Right. And then we've got our digital floor plans. We did all that stuff. But what has evolved is I will show them this property and I will say, let me show you what a full media package looks like. Right. Where we have a video walking through here. Right. And then I have a Matterport tour. I will shock and awe them with all of this and say, it's a whole new world, right? Because when we sold your property, you had renters in there. We couldn't really get at it like we can now, and everything has changed, right? So we have to show them all of that and show them how it works. Make sense?
Yeah, but so yeah, that really makes sense, and I appreciate like you breaking that down to me. And how do you? So going back to the mindset and like, how do you overcome like the imposter syndrome or like overthinking? When you're getting into.
It's an excellent question. I'm going to give you the easiest answer I can. You have to learn how to make these 2 packages, okay? Because this is the only thing that's going to allow you to be a giver. And when you're a giver, you stop worrying about your own performance and you don't worry about the outcome. That's how you get over it. You just say, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to learn how to make this for that particular seller, that particular buyer. I'm going to learn how to make one of these. It's nothing. It's a one-page statistical market update. It's 5 or 6 properties that sold around the listing or in the area the buyer wants to buy. And it's the buyer or seller plan. When you know how to make one of these information products, and then in your heart, you say, hey, I can't speak to all the other people you're talking to and thinking about working with, but I can give you the gift of information to empower you to make good decisions when you're selling or buying. That's how you do it, because then you're the only one doing it. Then you can just hope that that makes you competitive, right?
Hey, Danny,
Yeah.
when you're putting together your, well, I guess, when whoever is putting together the package for you and they're sending out the 5 or 6 solds, as per the script, pictures and details of property sold in your price range while you're on the market in the MLS. Are they including, if it's a short inventory market like it is here oftentimes, are they demonstrating that? I mean, not that the homeowner might not, most savvy homeowners might know that, but are they demonstrating that by including, say, the one active that might be in their name? I'm actually speaking to a listing presentation I went on Sunday. The one active that might be in that neighborhood, and say, including also, which I did, their canceled listing along with the 4 solds that I found in their neighborhood. It was a 1.6. It's not waterfront, but it's got beach rights. I found 4 properties that were between 1.5 and 1.7. I included their expired at 1.6. I included one active that's in that price point, just to demonstrate that, one, they're not off by more than 50K, and there's no inventory. So, I got this other person in their ear saying, wait till after the holiday, wait till, blah. I'm like, why wait? Why wait until everybody else comes and puts their property on the market? Don't be a dummy. Like, let's get it on the market if you go with me, like now. And
Yeah, well, a lot of, yeah. Well, look, let's go back
So my
to,
question is, do you guys put the active 1 or 2 in there, and they're expired or canceled, whatever you
I like
guys
solds. I mean, to me, if I have enough solds, even if I have to go back in time, to me, solds tell you the impendings can tell you what's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, we're trying to get a price reduction right now from somebody. We showed her a bunch of pendings because she's not listening. She's a knucklehead, a real knucklehead. But she came from a lead source I would never take again. But she's right in the geographic, that I want more of. I'll take anything, I thought, until I got this dummy. She's just a dummy. So she doesn't listen. So I got mad at her and I said, listen, here are the pendings. This is what you're losing to. So conversely, if I was just meeting with her, I'd say, here's what the market's saying yes to right now. Here was their asking price. Here's what they have. Here's what you don't have, right? I would have done it that way. So if I have limited information, or I think pendings can help me, get somebody more realistic, then I would use pendings. I hate actives unless it's a really super tight market and everything's going quickly, which could be the case for you, right? So
Yeah,
if
everything, well, in this particular market or neighborhood, very few things flip because it's one of those sought after neighborhoods.
yeah.
So,
But the 1.6 that was active, if you think that's short time on the market, it's direct competition. And you can look at that and say, listen, here's your competition. They're on for 1.6. They've been on for X number of days so far. Average number of days is Y. As long as you stay in the conversation about the metrics, yeah, sure. Just my cautionary tale is I'd only cheat to that stuff once I was really worried about, being on the market, because in our marketplace, it's never been that tight. You know what I mean? Well, I shouldn't say that. There's been times when the market's been tight and stuff goes multiple offers, but it's been more of a rarer occasion. Most of the time there's 30 days, 45 days, whatever. So I would look to, hey, here's a guy that's been on at 1.6. He's been on 30 days. Seattle's been running at 29. This guy's overpriced, at least if you look at that. That could be a way for you to get them to be competitive and more realistic. So again, I think you have to look at what's in your hands for data, and does it help you make the case you're trying to make?
Alright.
Just be careful of, the runaway with actives. Actives, they don't really
No,
tell
I was
us.
talking like one or two,
Yeah.
in the package.
Yeah.
Show it's
Yeah.
in the neighborhood, it's short of
Just don't dump it on them. Like data, we've learned one thing: don't data dump. That's the one thing we learned. We're very cautious when we send somebody information to begin with. In fact, Laura was talking about that today. We have to get a little bit above and a little bit below, and still people are going to argue with you. Well, these aren't really here, or these aren't really. Some lady in Boston, she's a knucklehead too, right? It's just, well, I said, listen, I went back 24 months. There's nothing that's sold in the area except these two. And these are really nice houses. Okay. And they didn't sell for anywhere near what you want to sell for. So I got very specific, but I had to go back in time. I'm 24 months, right? So
Right.
because there was nothing that sold, she's right. She has a unique place, but I had to go back in time.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Is it better to be more specific? Like going back to the avatar, is it better to be more like super specific on who your avatar is, or is it okay to be like?
You can be, well, you're just starting. So you're just starting. So you can be broader based, but I would warn you, don't try to do something with somebody who doesn't have a why and a motivation to do so in the next 6 months, 12 months maximum, because you're just not going to be able to. So I would say psychographically for you, it's important, but of course you should cheat a little bit to the left of the median. You know what I mean? Like a median is a middle number. It just means there's an equal number of sales above it and below it. So if you drew a bell curve around it, sure, in and around that median, a little below, a little below, above, perfect for you.
Especially here, Ty,
Yeah.
because the median, the average here was 1.1, median here last one was 950. So you can cheat to the left of the median.
Yeah.
100K, you're still at 850.
Yeah,
for God's
which
sake.
is great.
It's a hell of a commission. So
Okay,
you're fine. You're fine.
that's cool. I got so many questions. So, what happens if like the person's want and desires are unclear? Needs or-
They're not when you ask the right question. Like the way that you can get around that is say, hey, by the way, it looks like a beautiful property. Why are you thinking about selling it? They'll read their desires out loud to you. If you just ask the right question and just bite down on your tongue and let them answer, right? And then you can further qualify it. The best way for you to do that is when Paul gives you access to the telemarketing recordings, listen to real live calls of where, the telemarketers are asking these questions.
That's what Regia and all these guys are going to do with us.
Yep.
Ty. So you can,
Yep.
even before you're licensed, you can sit in the boiler room.
Yeah. And just listen.
Zooms like this, and just sit there and be quiet and listen to me make calls.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's how they learn.
And that's super helpful because
You'll
you'll hear the answers to your question rather than being taught them. You'll hear them. You'll see it live.
You hear them exactly what they
Yep.
say, why they're moving. They spell it. They give up. It's weird how much personal information a seller will tell you.
Yep.
It's
Especially when they're avatar. Especially when they're avatar.
They'll-
right?
They'll tell you their whole life story,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
It's interesting.
All right, guys, it's 7:59. So I don't like to go over in the hour here. So 2 weeks, no calls because we're going to be lined up with 2 holidays in a row. So we will see you 3 weeks and we'll pick this up then. But in the meantime, I gave you the links to the recordings. You can knock yourself out and listen to past ones. And then like I said, if you're inside in the coaching program or have access to coaching program stuff, we've got all sorts of stuff for the campfire where we go over the buyer and seller course and the telemarketing training. Okay.
Is there a Friday call this week?
Yes. Everything this week.
Okay.
Yep. See you later. Well, tomorrow too, we're going to go over the prospect follow-up stuff. So I will be there with Laura and my 2 telemarketers tomorrow again.
Okay.
So, all right. Bye, guys and gals. Appreciate your attendance. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.